Mino Line Media presents the Business First Podcast.
Hi, all, and welcome to a new episode of Business First with Sonia Alleyne. I am your host, and today I'm excited to bring someone back that we spoke with last time. Her name is Nadine Gale, and she is an attorney. She's a communications strategist. She has worked as a literary agent. But one of the reasons I love to call and pick her brain is because she is an amazing connector. And not just a connector of people, but of ideas. And so every time we get together, that's what she's either introducing me to somebody or helping me think through something. And so today, what we really want to talk about is the importance of making real connections, what networking, we talk about networking all the time, but what networking can really look like, how it really benefits your business. And so welcome back to the studio, Nadine Gale. Yay.
Thank you, Miss Sonia. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. And I'm glad we haven't seen each other in a really long time.
I know.
I don't even think we've seen each other since, and we live in the same city.
Yeah.
But, since the pandemic, but we connect regularly. And we always have like really great conversations, but I don't think I've seen you since the beginning of the pandemic.
Oh my goodness, has it been? You know what? Yeah. This is when you have kindred spirits with people. I don't even remember it being that long. I just know it's like every time you call, it's like we pick right back up, and I'm like, oh, you got to do this. Oh, you got to do this. You got to talk to this person. Because you're an amazing wordsmith and someone who really understands the value of the storytelling mechanisms that need to be used with products and, career objectives. So, it's always a great honor, and it's a great time to always catch up with you.
Absolutely.
You get the creative juices flowing. That one.
Yes. And so the audience is in for a treat because they're going to get an insight of what our conversations are usually like. So the last time you were here, you talked about, because you've worked as a literary agent. In fact, I think that's how we were introduced. And you talked about the importance of using a book to be able to further your professional goals. And today, part of our conversation offline was, everybody talks about networking. We all understand how important networking is, but we really want to talk about why making certain connections are important for your business, and just how to do that.
Absolutely.
And so I also had it's interesting. So as I was thinking about some of the questions for this interview, I think I had a mini kind of aha moment. Because also offline, we were talking about this narrative that's been going along online in certain pockets of social media. It's actually really strong, where there's this conversation about Black women not needing a man, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And in pursuit of their education, in pursuit of business, it's so that they don't need a man. And what I was thinking about today, like I was thinking about some of the things that I was told by both my parents, right? Like
right.
Both my mom and father, that it wasn't so much not needing a man, it was not needing anybody, right? So it wasn't this thing directed on you don't need a man. It was really about how do you become fully self-sufficient, and which was, we understood why they were giving us that advice. It does work to our detriment at times. And so I wanted us to kind of talk about that, because that's part of why networking doesn't really work as well for us. It's because we don't want to talk about when we're in trouble. We don't want to talk about when we need something. We were taught to always look full and self-sufficient. And sometimes in this whole networking process, sometimes it's about saying, I need help. I don't know how to do this. I'd like to partner, right? Or how can you support me? And so talk to me about your feelings about that.
So funny you said this. Lovey put up a post today, and it said that we're not meant to go through anything alone. And I stand by that 100%. There are no, how does she say it? There are no one man empires. That's not how life works. And it resonated with me a lot because, you know, we hear all those slogans. If you want to go far, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. There's always these reminders about community. And when we use the word networking, it has this negative connotation. And oftentimes, when you have children, when you have a business, all of these things require a level of networking. And to your point, many of our parents, I'll get to that one. I just had a thought. Many of our parents are often always telling us, you don't need any friends. Like, you don't need to do this. You don't need to do that. And I'm always, that's not how life was designed. When you're seeing the elders as they're getting older, it's nice to know that, your grandkids are coming to check on you, that your kids are coming to check on you. Mm-hmm. And when you don't build community around anything, it doesn't move the same way. And that's one thing that I think, as we are moving into a very different America. It's a very different America that we are about to experience. Many of us have been experiencing it, and people are going to continue to experience a different America. It's important that we understand community, networking, finding ways to work together. All of those things are so important. We are not designed to be here alone, to live alone. Loneliness is a disease even. That people die of heartache, and people die of, lack of affection. So I always encourage people, find a way to build community. And it is not easy for everyone to build community, and it does take more effort for some people than others. But I encourage people to make it a priority to build community, and do not think that you need to do things alone. The one thing I was going to comment on was, there was a young man I knew, his mother would always tell him, oh, you don't need to get married. You don't need to do this. You don't need to do that. And it's so funny. He has aged and he is not married. And I think his mother regrets always telling him that because, there's another saying, youth is wasted on the young.
Right.
And not to say you should get married too young, but if you find somebody that you like, that you love, that you guys get along, you guys can build together. And when I say build, I'm not talking about, it's very nice to be comfortable financially, but to build a life where you can support each other in your familial lives, in your work lives, whatever that work may be, in your ambitions, your goals, your dreams, your desires. You would want to, it's nice to have somebody to lean on. I always tell people, they design groceries. Everything is designed for people that are not single. they don't design life for single people. So I'm always like, I don't, life is not designed for single people. I went to a housing seminar yesterday, and they were like, well, when you husband and wives, this is how they talk about everything. Wow. And it may seem old school to people, but, the foundation of so many societies is the familial life. And your family can be whatever you define it as. Blood makes somebody a blood relative. It doesn't make them necessarily family. So however you choose to define what your family is, you should really lean into that and make sure that you guys are all, supporting each other.
Yeah. So it's interesting that, you have in everything that you've explained, you talked about community, and maybe that's how we need to reposition, networking, right? Because like you said, networking has this negative connotation that, and it just the term, when you say it, it seems hard. If you invite someone to a networking event, there are all of these kind of emotions around what type of event it might be. And so if you could reframe what your thinking is, to think about what your community looks like, not just socially, right, but also for business, that there can be a lot of opportunities for people to.
When people talk, I have a huge thing about community, and I think it's the only way we're going to get out of these next couple of years. with our hearts, brains, and everything intact is through community. And in the harshest of times, if you know history, which I know they're trying to ban, but if you really study history, in the harshest of times, community is what got many people through. Mm-hmm. And when we think we've arrived and we no longer need community is when you tend to fall off from, getting to your maximum height. And it doesn't mean everyone can come with you all the time. That's why I have the other saying is find your tribe. Find your tribe of people. I have a saying, I want liberation for all people. That doesn't mean you have to come eat dinner with me every night. But I want people to feel liberated. Particularly I like Black people to feel liberated because we live in a society, we discussed this earlier too, the fabric of this country, it's interwoven sexism, racism, patriarchy. It's in the fabric of society. So, it's so important that we understand who is your tribe? Who are your tribe of people rather? Find your tribe.
And so one of the things for us to be able to, I would think, to successfully find the tribe and be able to build a community is to first really be honest about the things that you need and the skills that you lack. And so again, when I talk about that being self-sufficient, we were always supposed to, dress and show up like we didn't need anything, like we've gotten it all together.
Oh.
I interviewed a woman just last week who said she's the first Black woman to own a Chick-fil-A in Philadelphia. Okay. And it was interesting for her. She said a lot of things that were very interesting, but one of them was, she goes, everything I need, I ask for. She goes, I hold no secrets. And just by her saying no secrets was interesting because as a community, we believe in secrets. We believe in holding your card and not letting anybody see you cry and not letting anybody see you. That used to be a favorite commercial, right? Never let them see you sweat.
You sweat.
Right? It was like, and so that's why we're all suffering in silence and, dying under the pressure of depression and stress because we have to really show this strong front. And so what would you even recommend, because these are cultural things, right? These are things Absolutely. That our grandparents passed on to us and that we're trying to unlearn. And so what would you recommend in terms of people even just starting to take down these walls and to stop showing up as superhuman beings that knowing that you have your strengths, but also being okay with the places where you're just not strong and being okay with that?
So I'm a yogi. I'm a meditation person every day. And I think you have to know thyself. They say know thyself. And you just said that you have to know yourself, know what you said, what you like, what you don't like, what you need, but really take time out to know yourself. And as you are looking for a tribe, I don't think you should be chasing anyone. Right. I think that's something that you have to put yourself in certain environments, in certain situations, and you will, I'm not old, but as you think you're older and you're not going to make new friends. I still am making new circles of people that are so beneficial to me. My love of community is one of them. I worked with Assemblymember Walker in Brownsville, and I fell in love with the community and the people there. And there's one person particularly, I'm not going to say her name. She does a lot of business not business, but she does a lot of business incubation. She does a lot of workforce development. She runs the Central Brooklyn Economic Development Corporation, if you can check it out. And she's amazing. It was like I met another sister when I met her. I met somebody else I got to get you to talk to. Okay. She's doing a project right now where she's bringing Black restaurants to Brownsville. She's getting people to... We wait so often for everyone else to find a prize in us, in our community. And the thing is, everything that we need, we already have. We just have to align ourselves properly, and we can really, not to say that we all know that there are things that are built, as we said, the things that are woven into the fabric of the country. But we have people that know how to cook. We know how to people that know how to keep books. We have these things. We may not have as much as other people have, but we have the resources at times. And what she's doing is just gathering everybody, and this can, like, what do you want to see? And New York is a tough place to build something like that. Real estate is at a premium, but through networking and talking to people, you find these unearthed gems. So, what was the original question?
Well, it's funny because I was asking you, what is it that people can do to start breaking down these walls?
Okay, and I was telling you,
But
no.
yeah, I love the direction that you were going, because I have a follow-up question to that, in terms of, sometimes you're the person who's leading, right? Like, I'm sure somebody's listening to you and going, oh, you know what? I'm the person who could do that in my community, right? Like, I could figure something out, and I can be that, and I can be the gatherer and the connector, because that's my gift. But I'm also thinking that there's somebody listening who's saying, I'm not that person, but I'd love to be included, and I never feel like I'm included, right? So how do I make myself available, right, or seen to even be included in some of these things that are going on?
Let me say this. I highly recommend people read the Four Agreements as well, because the vulnerability that you need sometimes to walk into spaces and places where you may not be invited, but ask Lord, the universe, however you move around, and you will tend to find someone who will be like, oh, I didn't know this was happening. Please let me know the next event that you have. And, show up, show interest, let people know that you have an interest in what's going on. One of the things I love about attending HBCU is, you didn't know everyone in your class. But as we go back for reunions, every time I go back, I see somebody, I'm like, oh, I didn't even know you went to school here. Oh, I haven't seen you. Like, always take an opportunity to extend a hand to someone. And it doesn't mean you have to be best friends with them. That's another misconception I have about networking. There's some people I only talk to once a year, and that's at homecoming. What do you have going on? Boom. Okay. And when people have a spirit of giving, we understand what it is. It is not like, oh, I don't want to be your friend, but we also understand that life is lifing. People are busy. You may have children. You may have a job that's very demanding, but be authentic with your movements. And that's the part that allows people to extend grace to you. And the reason I said read the Four Agreements is because don't take things personally. People show up at a point where they are. And if you move authentically with how you move, you will find people who will accept you. And I'm not saying it's easy, but what I'm saying is you will find your tribe of people, and you go into a space and ask them what's going on. Show up for community nights. Show up for community board meetings. If you have hobbies, you will be very surprised. You're there for your hobby, but you guys will naturally talk about other things. And oftentimes, well, in the world we live in, where politics tends to be so off the table, I don't shy away from discussing politics, because it is nice to know where someone stands on certain things. It doesn't mean I'm going to have a knockout, drag out argument with you. If it's that aggressive, of course, I'm not going to entertain that conversation. But it's nice to know where people stand. We're in New York, so we have a migrant influx of people who are from other countries moving into the state. So we know that, have these conversations.
Don't be afraid to have them.
Right. Be respectful of other people's opinions. And that person may not be your tribe. That may be somebody, oh, he said he was going to hook me up with a contractor. Let me get the contractor information. Send them a nice bottle of wine in return for, or whatever. However you move, be authentic, be grateful, be appreciative. Move in a spirit of, no one owes me anything. I'm appreciative of what you did. And the thing is, you may see that you may just run into them outside and, nice casual conversation. But don't put so much pressure on yourselves to think everyone does not have to be your best friend. That's not how it has to go.
And you also said something that's very important, like be open, right? So
always,
you might be a Trumper, right? And so we may have a serious disagreement in terms of who you think should be president, but we may have an alliance or a similar interest in something else that could benefit maybe both of us in a particular way. So to your point, I don't have to be your best friend, right? We don't have to break bread together, but it doesn't mean that we can't communicate, that I can't hear what you have to say, or I can't listen to what you have to say even outside of the political scope.
Yeah, I've been, of course, with everything that's going on with Israel and Palestine, I hear people saying, I am not breaking up with the person because of their views on this. I'm breaking up with them because of their morality. And again, I tell people, you do not have to come to my house and have dinner. That's not what I'm asking you to do, because I don't want you here. That's fine. But I do respect that you have business savvy. And, there's a saying my mother taught me, take the meat and throw away the bone. Mm. And, with a lot of things, you have to take what's good. And this is the other thing. God uses who he wants when he wants.
Oh my gosh.
You do not get to tell God who he's going to use and how he's going to use them and when he's going to use them. So that's when I say be open. You don't know what you don't know what you may find out that is actually like, oh, another one that I hear all the time, a broken clock is right 2 times of the day.
Right.
So sometimes you have to be like, you know what? I do not care for this, but this person had a valid point. Yeah. And Michelle Obama said something today. As you can see, I'm an avid reader, everyone. I listen to all the news.
That's what I love about your mind. Yes.
She said, don't be afraid to let people in, but if they show you who you are and, you need to usher them out quickly, don't be afraid to do that either. Yeah, when people show you who they are, believe them when they,
believe them.
And know what you're... Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I had a mentor. Her politics are just outrageous. And there are times when I've had to say, don't send me that, or we're not going to talk about that. But what I can say is she's been very instrumental in helping me understand when I was working as an editor, in grooming me as a strong editor. And so she had great value there. And we would meet for lunch, and we would talk regularly on the phone. But there were times when I had to say, like, that's inappropriate, or yes, no, you can't say that to me. Or she would send these emails. And one time I had to say, that is offensive. You need to stop.
I'm proud of you for knowing how to speak up for yourself. And, I think that is important that you were able to do that. And oftentimes people who have these strong views, they will respect you. So there's another thing I tell people: you don't have to like me, but you need to respect me.
Respect me, absolutely.
Yeah. So liking me is overrated. Right. You know what I mean? I'm not like, I need you to respect. So exactly. And I'm happy that you made, her respect how you wanted to be spoken to and what you wanted to talk about. So those things are super important.
Yeah. And so it's important for listeners to understand that, when you said, like, you don't know who God's going to put in your path and when they're going to do that. And so being open is to, particularly as a business person, and again, depending on who you're serving, depending on what you want to do in business, it's so important to be open to different perspectives and ideas. How do you? So I thought it was also interesting that you said, there are people that you see maybe once a year at homecoming, and you can still have a there's a good relationship because you're authentic in how you show up with them. How would you recommend for people to nurture and maintain relationships? Because if they're not people, and this is something I've always struggled with too, if they're not people that you have like a natural affinity for or a natural relationship with, how do you then maintain a relationship that could be helpful for some of your business dealings later on?
Ooh, so I'm a very extreme case of this, where if you give me your phone number, I'm probably going to call you just to kind of get to know you a little bit better. I think social media has been a great tool to allow you to interact with people on a very friendlier than once a year level, but you do not have to be invasive, because someone is putting what they want you to know about them on social media. Right. You can give a genuine comment if you like what they have on. Oh, your hair looks cute. And one of the things in Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, he says, give genuine compliments. And that's something that I genuinely do. I never hold back on giving someone a compliment, but it has to be something I genuinely like. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be like, "Oh, girl, that's a nice outfit." No one asked me did I like your outfit, so therefore, no one is expecting me to say anything. So if I don't like your outfit, I keep my mouth shut. But if I do like it, I can feel free to say that's a really cute outfit. So I think one of the things I would tell people is, in your authenticity, if you have a function, make lists early. If you're doing a function, go over your lists. I put people in my phone by where I met them. Oftentimes, how I remember who you are.
Yeah.
So, if I'm doing an event, I'll type in this word and I'm like, oh, okay, I forgot this person. I forgot that person. And then I may ask somebody else, is there anyone else you think I should invite? Like to these things that are not like very small or very personal. I also think that, when you find your tribe, you'll often find that there's a lot of overlap. And I'm not saying even overlap in your city. You will be surprised how you overlap even when you are in another city. And I remember when I was in South Africa, I went with Howard University's law school. And I saw people I knew from Clark Atlanta University, from Spelman, from Morehouse, because people were just there. It was a place that people went to. I had an incident recently where some acquaintances from Jersey, were in Monte Carlo, and they met another one of my girlfriends and her boyfriend at the craps table in Monte Carlo. And I was like, how did I even come up as a topic? And they were like, oh, we knew somebody that went to Clark. And I would tell people, you just never know. And again, another saying, there's 7 degrees of separation. And in the Black community, sometimes it's even less. Yeah. And when you hear statistics like only 30-something% of, I'm not sure if it's Black people or people in general, have gone to college, that shrinks your pool of people that you may run into in certain spaces and places. I'm a Delta. I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. That shrinks my world again. Working in politics, working in publishing, like all of the things that you do become a part of you, and you have these circles and they tend to overlap.
So would you suggest people who may have difficulty, right, breaking through some of these barriers to meet people, should they join something, like join whether it's, we use church a lot, but you had mentioned hobbies, right? Like sometimes you feel like, oh, I'm so busy working, I don't have time to do X, Y, and Z. But sometimes it might be worth you taking time to nurture another part of yourself so that you can broaden your community and find your tribe.
Absolutely. I love to roller skate. And through roller skating.
I didn't know that about you.
Oh, I love, oh gosh, girl, roller skating is one of my favorite to do. So I love roller skating. I have reconnected with some people from college over roller skating. And at this particular age, those who are diehard roller skaters, it is definitely something that we love to do. So you connect over that. And, you connect over like those people who like to work out. And there's so many different, one of the great joys of living in New York is that there's so much to do.
There's so much to do.
And, with the spring coming and summer coming, like there's always something. Like I always tell people, in summertime in New York is for outside. Like, and you fall in love with the city all over again. And then you wonder why you stay here through the winter. And you're like, it's horrible here. But I definitely think that you should join things that are of genuine interest to you. Everything does not have to have a dollar sign attached to it. And you'll meet people who you'll authentically, certain people like wine. There's wine clubs. There's cooking classes. I was with somebody from my college the other day, and she is she goes swing dancing. I want to go with her. I know you love to dance too.
I was about to say, sign me up.
Yeah, I like to dance. So yes. So I actually thought of you when she was like, oh, I'm going swing dancing. And they were asking her to be the president of the swing dance club. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that was a thing. Look, FOMO. I was like, let me find out. Yes, I think that there's always, one of the things I say to my son all the time is look for ways in, don't look for ways out. There
I love
always
that.
look for pathways to get the work done, to connect with people, to be nice. I don't like the word nice, to be kind, to be a genuine person, a giving person. Don't look for ways to not be nice or not be kind or not be friendly, not be available. Look for ways in, don't look for ways out.
Okay. I love that. And I feel like that's a perfect way to wrap up this conversation, right? Like look for ways in, not to look for ways out. Also to be authentic, to be open, and um and to find your tribe. And
Yeah,
I think the other part is to think community, right? If networking makes you feel uneasy, then
think of
think
community.
community.
And I'm just going to add this. When I say be authentic, I have friends that I will travel with. Certain people will never travel with me, and I don't care how much,
Right.
because
Hmm.
your personality. I'm fully aware as I sit in meditation that I like to be on the beach. I don't need an I if I want to overschedule trip, I know who to call. Like
Right.
if I'm going on a if I'm going on a trip and I know like Costa Rica will have you moving. If you
Right.
like that's the type of trip you want, Costa Rica. And then when I went there, it was up in the jungles, it was in the forest, it was a mud bath, it was on the horses, and that's what I wanted. So and
Right.
you can't, once again, for agreements, don't take things personally. Certain people you will travel with
Don't
to
take
certain
things
places, and certain people, I want to sit on the beach all day when I go to this place. I only want to have dinner one night with everyone, and learn to be okay with that. So move authentically and move in a way that allows you to move how you move and extend grace to others as they are navigating this thing called life. And I'm sure everyone has seen the memes, everyone's fighting something. So just, you know, be open to the connection and the village, the tribe, and grow from there.
Yeah, I'm glad you reiterated the don't take things personally because we do. Like just
Oh,
culturally, we're groomed to take things personally.
yeah,
So
why
that's
didn't you?
probably exactly why did you and how often does that happen, right? You reach out to someone and they don't reach back out right away and you've already, dismissed them in your mind. You've already written them off in terms of um, them not responding to you.
If you and I think you and I are such a great example of that. Sonia and I will talk for 3 weeks straight. We will be every day. Then one day it's just like, boom. I won't hear from Sonia. She won't hear from me either. It's not just her.
Right,
We won't
exactly.
talk.
It'll be months.
Right. It'll be months. Then I'm like,
Yeah.
you know what? Talk to Sonia. Let me call her and ask her what is going on. What is she working
Exactly.
on? And we pick right back up.
And
And
we
it's
pick
not
right back up.
personal because you
Yeah.
definitely give me a timeline that lets me reassures any if I had a doubt, you will give me a timeline that reassures me that your time was consumed. So yeah, like, extend grace to your friends and your family. And let me say this one, extend grace to our elders.
Mm.
Um, a big part of our village, whether you realize it or not, our elders have so much information.
Oh my
And
gosh.
by way of story, which is one of your specialties as well as mine, if you listen to the elders' stories, you will learn some things that, whether it be familial secret, whether it be how somebody fell out for no reason, how
Right.
someone passed away and somebody wasn't speaking, you'll
Yeah.
learn what you do want to do and what you don't want to do.
Yeah.
So I was the last one. Extend grace to our community as well with our elders.
With our elders. I love that. I love that. Well, as always, Nadine, thank you for your insight and your wisdom
Yeah.
and your passion
Oh,
around these topics.
oh,
And
thank you.
like I know you'll be back again
I will
because
definitely,
Philadelphia.
as we are as we are talking about business and we're talking about these
Mm,
connections that everyone needs to
yeah.
further their business in this particular episode, there's some other things I will definitely love to come back and discuss. And I love sharing my thoughts with you. You're such a vibe, and
Oh,
the creative juices get so flowy when I talk to you. I'm like, oh, I can do this.
that's and that is so mutual. And I think more people are gonna feel that way, because as we, had been talking with the deconstruction of DEI and all of the supportive systems that support Black people, as we're seeing all of these things crumble away, we're going to have to rely on each other more and more. We're going to have to trust each other more, and build those communities that we built before, right? In the
Absolutely. Build
1920s
communities.
and before then. So
Build
we can
communities.
absolutely do it again, because we have so much more to be able to build with.
Yes. Do not be in
So
scarcity mindset mode.
yeah, not at all. Thanks, Nadine.
No, thank you, Sonia, for having me. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.
Thank you. And thank you all for listening. We'll be back again with another great guest. Take care.
The Business First podcast is hosted and produced by Sonia Alleyne. Executive producer Ken Johnson. Find the Business First podcast on Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, Odyssey, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, TuneIn, or wherever you get your podcast. On social media on IG at business_first_podcast. Follow the Mean Old Line Media Podcast Network on IG at Mean Old Line Media. Get the Mean Old Line Media app in the App Store or Google Play. The Business First podcast is a Mean Old Line Media production.